My name is Santan. I work for Red Hat as a software engineer. And I am one of the Eclipse Che committer. So I've been contributing to this project for the last 6 years. And I'm also enjoying speaking at developer events, such as DevConf, of course, or Java One, or EclipseCon, or DevOps France. And during my free time, I'm leading the Paris Java user group, and I'm also brewing my own beer in my kitchen. So you can follow me in Twitter with the handle __Phoenix_. And today I'm with Ilya. Hello, Ilya.
Hello, San. Hello, folks. I'm also a software engineer at Red Hat, and I'm Eclipse Che and Eclipse JavaScript development tool committer. Currently, I'm working on the hosted IDE that is provided as part of the Red Hat OpenShift Developer Sandbox SaaS offering, free of charge, and it's actually the easiest way to try OpenShift. We'll talk a little bit about this in the end. And I used to work on JBoss tools. I'm also a speaker at various conferences. So last year I was with you live in Brno with Eclipse Che session, and today we're with San on the virtual event. So yeah, really happy to be with you. And before we start, I actually have a question for you. How do you interact with Kubernetes? So you might be a CLI fan and you use kubectl or OC to interact with your clusters, or maybe you are a GUI fan and you use WebUI or OpenShift Web Console to interact with pods and follow up on the deployments and deployments configs. Or maybe you are a developer and you use various libraries in order to create Kubernetes resources from your code. For example, in Eclipse Che, under the hood, we are using wonderful Fabricate Kubernetes client library for creation of Kubernetes resources. But no matter how you interact with Kubernetes, let's be honest, Kubernetes is hard for developers. Application developers haven't been a focus for Kubernetes for a while, and Kubernetes really helps to run applications at scale in a distributed fashion, but it's not really straightforward for developers because Kubernetes setup is intricate and it's not really straightforward to get the applications up and running on Kubernetes in the right way. But today with Sun, we want to focus on the fact that Kubernetes learning curve is really high. And today we would like to provide yet another way to interact with Kubernetes, which should be both easy and fun. And it's with Scratch programming language and Eclipse Che Kube native IDE for developer teams. And now back to Sun, and he will introduce you to the Scratch programming language.
Thank you, Ilya. So let me open the browser. So I was thinking that maybe a good way to show you what is Scratch is with a live demo. So let's go to the web browser and open the Scratch website. So scratch.mit.edu. So once you get there, you can create a new account. So in my case, it's already I'm already registered, and you can create a new project. So create new project, and when you create a new project, it will load the Scratch editor. So on the right side, you see this little cat. It's a kind of game board. This is where you are going to have your game running. And by default, there is this cat. So his name is Scratch. So nice to see you again, Scratch. And in the middle, you have what we're going to have the source code. And this is where you're going to move the blocks that you see on the left panel. And as you can see, there is various categories of blocks. So there is blocks for moving or animating a sprite. There is blocks for loops, similar to for each loops or while loops. There is blocks to produce sound. You even have event listeners and operators for calculation. And you can even set up your own variables. And you can also have your own blocks. It's kind of similar to when you're creating a function. So making a function and an own block that will include several blocks. So let's try, for instance, to move the cat. So I'm go to motion, and there is this move 10-step blocks. And if I click on the green flag, so the green flag is to start the application, it won't do anything. This is because to activate the block, you need an event listener. And there is one which is called when the green flag is clicked, that will activate all the blocks that are below when you click on the green flag. So let's give a try. So as you can see, it is moving the cat 10 steps, but it's actually moving 10 pixels. So one step is 1 pixel in Scratch. And so I can click again, it's going to move again, 10 pixels. So I can try more blocks, such as one from the control category. And there is one I would like to try is it's a repeat loop, like repeat 10 times. And this is very similar to for loop. So if you're familiar with programming language, and if I try that, it will repeat 10 times, move 10 steps. So let's give a try. Yeah, 10 times. So it's finally moved 10 pixels. This is great. So now let's try another block. So let's try the forever block, for instance. So move forever 10 step. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, as you can see, it's keeping moving. So even if I move the cat here, it's keeping moving and forever. Come back, little cat. Okay, I have to click on stop so it stop moving. Then what else I can do? Yes, I would just put it back here, the repeat 10 steps, because it would do it forever otherwise. And I can try something like say hello. So repeat 10 step, move 10, repeat 10 times, move 10 steps, and then say hello. And I can even change the variable, like hello, San and Ilya. Hello, San and Ilya. Okay, so I think that is it for the first overview of Scratch, and I can show you a more advanced game. So if I go to my projects, I can show you a game that I have written with my 8-year-old son. It's actually a race car. So course de voiture means race cars in French. And so let's give a try. So how can I do that? I have to click here and click on the green flag. So the green flag will initialize the car. So it will put the cars. So there is two cars: the blue car and the red car. So it will initialize and put the cars here and set the speed to 0. And I can use my keyboard to move the cars, and I can move also the green car as well. And we can make a race like that. So it's pretty hard to play 2 cars at the same time, but as you can see, I'm an expert. So yeah, I can keep playing forever, and we can have a look to the inside and see the source code of that application. And as you can see, it's quite simple, and it was just done by moving some blocks, and that's it. So that is pretty it for my for the Scratch presentation. So I think we can switch to the next part.
Yeah, thanks, Tan, for the great Scratch introduction. And now I will tell you a little bit about Eclipse Che. So Eclipse Che is the Kubernetes native IDE for developer teams. And it's also a project under Eclipse Foundation. So it's open source project under Eclipse Public License 2.0. But not only can you find Eclipse Che on the Eclipse Foundation landscape, you can also find it on cloud native landscape. So Eclipse Che is also there on CNCF website. And the motto of the project is actually that anyone, anytime can contribute to a software, to a project without actually installing software. This is the problem we are solving with Eclipse Che. So if you think about it, what development looked like, let's say 10, 15 years ago, it was completely different story. For example, if it was Java development, it was pretty much Java from front to back, from top to bottom. You had one version of JVM, one version of application server, and it was pretty much good. Now the complexity of the applications changed dramatically. So we have, multiple languages, we have multi-container architecture, a lot of microservices. And if you think about it, our laptops are not ideally suited for this cloud-native landscape, because on our laptops, we have limitations to RAM, to CPU. And our point is that if you want to develop for the cloud, you need to develop in the cloud and move all the complexities to the cloud. So that's the problem we are solving with Eclipse Che, and we're going to show you how. And with Eclipse Che, we are defining a new kind of workspace. Basically, we are containerizing everything. So not only internal parts like Che server or internal parts like database or Keycloak for authorization, we containerize the workspace itself and IDE part as well. And if you think about it, this allows us to provide easy to configure, highly reproducible, shareable environment that will solve the problem. It works on my machine, but it doesn't work on production, because in the container world, all the environment will be identical. So if you look at Eclipse Che, and San will show you it in action, so you can see that look and feel is very much VS Code experience. It's because of the fact that Eclipse Che uses by default the IDE based on Eclipse TF framework, which uses the very same editor under the hood that VS Code Monaco editor. And with Eclipse Che, we provide built-in support for language server protocol and debug adapter protocol. And the last but not least, Eclipse Che is compatible with VS Code extensions, so you can use VS Code extensions inside your workspaces. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Quick intro, and now back to San to our main demo.
Thank you, Ilya. So for the main demo, let's go back to the Scratch UI. So what we would like to do is to create a Scratch application that would interact with Kubernetes. So for instance, to start, what we could do could be having the cat telling us how many pods we have in our cluster, and then tell us the name of each pod. And to do that, what we would need could be a new category of reusable blocks. So here, for instance, a new category with Kubernetes blocks that we could use and compose to create our application. And then you could imagine having blocks like a block to get the list of pods of the current namespace, or a block to switch to another namespace, or a block to scale a pod, or anything related that you could do usually with the Kubernetes CLI, but you would be able to do it with a block, a Scratch block. And to create this new category of blocks in Scratch, what we have to do is to check out two projects. So there is Scratch GUI and Scratch VM. So Scratch GUI is actually the UI that you have just seen previously. It is also contains the definition of all the blocks. Scratch VM is the engine that would execute the blocks that you have in your Scratch application. So when you click on the green flag, this is Scratch VM that's going to execute that, all the blocks that are in your application. And there are a few files that you can modify in Scratch VM and Scratch GUI to add a new category of custom blocks. And we have started to do that, to modify this file and to add our first basic Kubernetes blocks for Scratch. And to interact with Kubernetes, these custom blocks will make HTTP calls to a Quarkus application so that Quarkus application would make the real calls to Kubernetes, thanks to the Java Fabricate client. So obviously, you can imagine that the setup of this workspace could be quite complex. And you could spend half a day to set up all these things. But thanks to Eclipse Che, you will be able to clone a pre-configured workspace for these projects. And this is, and you will be able to run the application and also add new blocks without having to go through the painful environment setup phases. And I will show you how you could do that at the end of the talk. So you will be able to run this demo on your side. So let's see how the workspace looks like. So I have already started generated a workspace just before the talks because I wanted to save some time for the download of the dependencies and so on. So when you start the workspace, it is coming with all the things that so you can get ready to code right away. So it shows first of all, it shows you that guide and all the commands that are needed to build your applications and to run your applications. Sorry. And it's also cloning the source code already. So you can see that there is Scratch GUI, Scratch VM, and the Quarkus application already cloned. And it also provides links to the files that you want to modify. So I can quickly open it, for instance. Okay, so let's try the three build commands that are in the info. So in the guide. So I already started the first one to say sometimes, may take some time. And then, so the first one was to download the dependencies. Then there's the second step is to start Scratch GUI in dev mode. So I'm gonna start that. And then once it is built, the finish built, I will start the Quarkus backend. So all these commands runs on dedicated containers that we have already defined in our workspace. So you can see it from the panel here. So in Che, you can compose your workspace with containers to replicate your production environment or to inject tools that you need to code and build your application. So if our application needs a Postgres database, for instance, we could have easily added a Postgres container to the workspace, and you would see it here, and your application will be able to access to that. So in our workspace, there is a Node.js container where we're gonna build and run our Scratch GUI application. And there is a Quarkus container that contains all that are needed to build and run our Quarkus backend. And because Che runs inside Kubernetes, this container will be able to access to the current cluster, the current Kubernetes cluster. But you could also log into another remote cluster. So if I click here, it's showing the current cluster you log in, and then you can also log into another one if you want. So let's start I forgot to start the Quarkus backend, and I will move that here and wait a bit. No, and open that in preview. I will do a refresh. I will move that that window in the main part. Oops. I guess I have have a demo effect. Okay, let's open it in another browser. What's happening? Okay, let's do something else. So sorry for that. It wasn't expected. Oh, it's okay now. Okay. Okay, sorry for the problem. So I would switch. I would just zoom in. Yeah, zoom out. And I will switch in French, or in English, sorry. So by default, it goes in yes, so that's in English. I'll zoom a bit again. It's okay. And so what we should have from that that workspace is a new the new blocks that you can find in the libraries of blocks. So this is the one that we have created and has been loaded from the source code, and we can test something like get pod, for instance. Ooh, this is very big. And so that would retrieve the list of pods that are in my namespace, and if I try to display the pods, for instance, with say get pods of, like you have seen previously, you need an event listener to start to execute the blocks. I can execute that, and it should display something. So it looks like a bug, but it's actually the list of pods in the JSON format. And I have other blocks to, for instance, get the number of pods. So instead of saying the list of pods, I can show the number of pods. So there's 3 pods in my namespace. And I can even, for instance, get 1 pod of the list. So pod 0. Again, a JSON format. But I can get the name out of this pod. So if I click here, so it's RM workspace blah blah blah. I can change the index and show workspace. So it's actually the name of my workspace in Kubernetes, and I can quickly have a look in the OpenShift console that this is the right workspace that we have in our namespace, the right pods. Sorry, so I have to go to pods. I think workloads pods, and here you see the 3 pods. I can try to add a new one and see if it is changing something on my application. So I'm just going to close that. And if I execute again, so it has changed. So my guess is that it's number 0 because it's a new one. So, and you should see example in so that's one. I have a more complex application that I've done based on these blocks that I can load from my computer. So give me a second. So I have a file, and that would load this. So I have to zoom out. Maybe it would help, or just refresh. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit refresh and load from files, and yeah. So this is the application. So it is going to go to display first. So if I have to change that first, but if I execute it now, it should say that there is 4 pods in my namespace, and then if I hit space, it's gonna go through all the pods that are in my namespace. So pod 1, pod 2, and so on. And that's it. So now, what if I want to add a new block, like for instance, get namespace? So so to add a new block, I can go to the Che workspace, and there is in the guide the right file to modify to add the new blocks. So I can click here, just close that to save some space. And it would open first that file, which is the Quarkus endpoint, files, where that's gonna be coded by our Kubernetes blocks. And I have created just before the talk, or maybe a few weeks before, but I have created this method that would get the namespace, the current namespace. So Kubernetes client get namespace. And I have this other file that I will modify live to show the new block in the Scratch UI. Okay, so we'll have a new block here. And so let's have a look to this file. So there is first the information of the blocks that that we have to modify. So I'm going to add a new item. And type OP code. So OP code is the name of the method that it should code when you execute the block. So get namespace. Then block type. Block type equals to block type. So here, the block type, there are several ones, depending on if you want to retrieve some information and return it, these ones, or if you want to, some a block with that would take some arguments. So in that case, I would use the reporter block that will return some values in my block. So the blocks types are different, have different shapes and I think that's it is missing the text. So for the text, I'm pretty free to add whatever I want. So I can do like get namespace. Yeah. Okay. So it should work, but what I have to do is create a method. So that would be code. So it should be the same name as the OP code. I'm going to copy paste the set namespace method because it is very similar. I just have to change the name of the method, remove the arguments because we don't have any arguments, and change a bit the log. So get current namespace, and so there is no arguments. And here, yes, I should remove that. And because it is running in dev mode, it will recompile the project. So I'm just waiting for the project to be recompiled. So it's been recompiled, and I can just refresh now the Scratch application, and it should have the new my new block now. So it's have to load the Kubernetes blocks, and here we have get namespace here as block. So let's try it. So I'm gonna switch in English again, otherwise you're gonna be lost. So let's try it. Get namespace here, and so let's say let's use again the say block. Say get namespace here. And then we need our event listener. And then I can click here and suitan-code. And this is the namespace that we have here, right? So this is correct. And to prove you that this is real, I can modify live this the Quarkus application. I'll put that in uppercase, for instance. Let's be crazy, and execute again, and it will live put the name of the namespace in uppercase. I can even let's do something like fancy, and execute again, Sultan-code So I think that's pretty it for my demo. But if you want to try this demo, I have very good news for you. So if you want to try the demo and maybe contribute to this project, you can start a clone of this project in any Eclipse Che instance. So the only thing that you need is the link of the repo. So this is this one, and this is the only thing that you need. And you also requires to have it also requires to have Eclipse Che installed somewhere in the cloud. So it could be even installed in your own laptop. So we have the full documentation in our website how to install Che on OpenShift or any Kubernetes instance on your own cloud or public cloud like GCP or Amazon. And then you would just need to take the Git repo. So that one, we have all the instruction here, but you only need to copy that link and go to your Eclipse Che instance webpage. So I have to log in. So this is my own Eclipse Che on my GCP cluster, my own one, not Red Hat one, mine. And I can just go in custom projects and just paste the link of the Git repo. Click on load dev file, and start the workspace. So it will regenerate a clone of the workspace that you have just seen here. So it would take a minute or two. So Che, what Che would do is look at the dev file and get all the information. So I can show you the dev file that is here. And it will get all the information that is in there and replicates the environment. So it would clone the right projects, and then it would configure the right containers and the right command to build your application and to run your application. And you will even have the guide that you have seen previously. But there is even an easiest way that you could use to try this demo. It's with our new SaaS environment called Developer Sandbox. And this is where the demo that you have just seen previously was running. And what you would just need to do is to register to Dev Sandbox first, and then you would just have to click on this button, and that would regenerate a new workspace like the one you have seen just previously, and it would be ready in 2 minutes, and that's for free. So maybe but the OpenShift Developer Sandbox is much more than just Eclipse Che. So maybe Ilya, you can tell us more about Developer Sandbox.
Yeah, thanks, Tan, for introduction. So we have 6 minutes left, so folks, feel free to add your Q&A into the chat. We'll be happy to answer. In the meantime, I will quickly guide you through the Developer Sandbox. So I will start sharing my screen. And so if you go to the developerredhat.com/developer sandbox, you will be on the landing page. And actually, what is Developer Sandbox is the easiest way to try OpenShift, and not only OpenShift. So once you are registered, you can click on the Start Using Your Developer Sandbox button. You will be provisioned with 3 namespaces. And you can, deploy your pet project samples. For example, in my code, I think in my stage namespace, I have some Node.js sample. So if I open it here, I can, for example, go to the networking tab and see the route. So it exposed the route. I can deploy my pet project. I can deploy sample. And so not only you have the access to OpenShift, where you can play with your deployment configs, and in general, all the available Kubernetes resources. You can also have access to code-ready workspaces, and it's our hosted IDE offering. So San showed actually his demo on this instance, and you can just register and replay it or try it with the getting started samples. So we have quite a few Go, C++, .NET, PHP, Java. So feel free to register, to play with it, to try it. And the last but not least thing I want to show you is that if you are not really interested in OpenShift experience and you need only Web ID, we also offer this kind of user workflow. So we have this workspaces openshift.com domain, when you can go there and you will be, once you register to Developer Sandbox, you will be redirected to your code-ready workspaces, which is actually a product that is built on top of the Eclipse Che. And I will just quickly show you how you can use it. Just today, I opened a draft pull request. We have the Eclipse Che website, and I want to migrate it to workspaces openshift.com so that I will be able to develop this website in this hosted environment. And you can try it with your own, pet project also. So we already had some discussion with San in this pull request, but the most important thing is that we provide you with the dev file factory link, which will create the workspace based on your Git project and with all the commands. So if I just click on developer workspace button, it's actually a link to the workspaces openshift.com. I will be redirected to my code-ready workspaces, and my workspace will be started with the website. So I'm starting it in the ephemeral mode, just for the demo. So this means that this workspace will not be persisted, and so the code will not be persisted. But for the demo purposes, it is just fine. So let's see. We are starting the workspace. We have the Che website. So it was pretty old website, so it's written in PHP. Let me just refresh it. So we have workspace started, the IDE part is loading. Okay, now my project will be cloned. All of this is actually specified in the dev file, which is actually a killer feature of Eclipse Che, highly reproducible environment, and I can start this website and develop it right away. So open in preview, and here we go. I have the Eclipse Che website up and running.